Welcome back to Landmarks Discovered. In this episode, we'll introduce you to the architect John Volk and visit one of his earliest commissions at 252 El Bravo Way. John Volk was one of the most prolific architects to work in Palm Beach, and because of his long career, we often associate his work with some of the later architectural styles that he helped popularize, styles like British colonial and Georgian. But he actually did some really incredible Mediterranean Revival style residences early in his career. And one of the things that is very impressive about that work that he did during that period in his life is just how young he was.
What's really amazing is that he was only 28 when he completed 252 El Bravo, and he was still in his partnership with Gustav Moss, and they held the architectural firm Volk and Moss. John Volk was born in Austria, and his family immigrated to New York in 1910. He studied at Columbia University and got his degree in architecture, and then he moved down to Florida, originally to Key West in 1925. He opened his Florida architecture practice originally in 1926 and started his practice with Gustav Moss in 1927. So the Volk Collection is one of the newest collections added to the Foundation archives. It was donated in 2018 by John K. Volk Jr.
John Volk Jr. is obviously the son of Jane and John Volk, and it was such an incredibly generous gift to the foundation that was actually valued upon appraisal at $1.4 million. The collection includes thousands of drawings reflecting John Volk's prolific career from the 1920s to the 1980s. It also includes his personal library of architectural books, which has many books that are out of print and rare books that are difficult to find today. In addition to this, we have so many notes from his wife, Jane Volk, who was an incredible proponent for historic preservation and served as the chairman of the Landmarks Commission for many years. And she really helped to interpret his work and help us gain a better understanding of who he was as an architect and as a person. There's also quite a few properties that are nearby this house that were built right around the same time and share many similar details. For instance, the plateresque door surround that can be found on the entry of this home and quite a few others, not only on the street but on nearby streets, and also the Gothic style windows.
One of the things that's interesting is that Volk once said that Spanish architecture allowed him the flexibility to kind of add in different details, such as that Gothic look to the windows.
And I think one of the things that's interesting about that quote is how he specifically mentions that the style enabled him to incorporate styles from different time periods from different locations around the world. One of the notable features of this property, amongst many, is the incredible formal gardens, which received the Leslie S. Smith Landscape Award in 2016.
And interestingly, this house always had formal gardens. We have the proposed landscape plan from 1928.
Yes, and I believe you mentioned it has a parterre garden.
Yes.
Which it does today.
We were so lucky in this episode of Landmarks Discovered to feature the homeowner of the property and her dedication to the restoration.
Yes, and this is actually the first time we're featuring a homeowner in an episode of Landmarks Discovered. And it's so important that I just take a moment to acknowledge how essential property owners are not only to the success of the series in allowing access to their homes and being willing to share them with the public, but they're also critical to the success of the Landmarks Preservation Program. Without their dedication and passion for historic preservation, Palm Beach would not be the place that it is today. The owner of 252 El Bravo, Frances Fisher, is an incredible advocate for historic preservation, and it was such a pleasure to speak with her because not only has she undertaken multiple restoration projects, she has done so much for historic preservation on a national level and is currently the chairman of the Ann Norton Sculpture Gardens in West Palm Beach.
I've lived in historic homes my whole life, and there's something really magical about the opportunity to become a curator of a historic home and property, and in many ways it's carrying the past forward, which is such an exciting opportunity for someone who loves history. We're visiting today at Christmas, and the Christmas tree in the window, the stained glass window, was so breathtaking to me. And we were invited to this home for a holiday party. And so that was my first introduction to it. This one was built in 1929 and landmarked in 89. This house has a hybrid of Gothic and Italian and Spanish, so it really is like a Spaniard who traveled helped to design this home. Gracia Leith was married to Arthur Leith. He had a large furniture business in the Midwest. She married very young at 18, and they had a daughter and began the planning of this house. Gracia was quite a woman. She was very forward-thinking. Her husband, Arthur, passed away, as did their daughter. Before she married Charles Hall, she went to court. At the time, women could not inherit if they married again. Their assets by law would automatically transfer to their husband. So the governor at the time helped her appeal to the judge so that she could retain her assets from her first marriage, including the purchase of this property. She loved to drive, and how befitting that she married Charles Hall, who was the designer of the bifocal lens for the automobile. And not many women drove at that time, but we have wonderful photos of her in her car. And meanwhile, there was a chauffeur's apartment above the garage. So she was both chauffeured, but she loved to drive. And I like all the historic aspects of this house and the fact that they were maintained for a century now. But I think the fish bladder tracery on the stained glass windows and that Gothic design gives it such importance and architectural integrity. And you really feel the front of the house carry into this living room space because it's got a very intricate stone. The fireplace, of course, is original here and such a prominent feature. The sliding glass doors, which I think were visionary for Volk, are surrounding the entire first floor. And one of my favorite things to do when we entertain, and it's a nice evening or day, is to open those doors. And so you still see the pretty grill work, but you also have the garden coming inside. That adaptation process was perhaps our biggest challenge over a 3-year restoration process. But of course, we all need to live in modern, comfortable ways, and we tried to approach that thoughtfully so that nothing that was a part of the historical character of the house was disturbed, and that we were really paying respect to those elements that we wanted to restore and celebrate. All of our photos and the Volk drawings were like a Bible for us. We really did try to recreate, for example, the grill work that is so prominent around the doors here. The balconies and railings, a lot of that had disappeared over the years. The original painted tile on the loggia, we really researched to find something very similar out of a monastery in Spain. So there were a lot of really fun triumphs and victories. The Pecky cypress ceilings over the years, the stencils that were original, for example, in our dining room, we recreated. And the wonderful thing about this property for garden lovers is the cruciform design. And it allows you to enjoy a view of the garden from almost any room on the first or second floor. We decided that we would create a series of different rooms, outdoor rooms, so that as you progress through the garden, you were able to experience a different feeling, and it could be used in a different way, whether that was for a party or on the other side, casual grill time by the pool with our family. It became a 2-level garden, and I love koi fish, so we did put a koi pond, which is right in front of a gate that was original to the property. So that gate is the focal point, and it was restored. And I also love rose gardens. So there is a beautiful rose garden with a well that is original to the property there. And the idea that we could incorporate places we've traveled, gardens we love in different areas of the world. We absolutely loved the process that we undertook with SMI and George Sanchez and his team. It was our 5th project together over 20 years. So George really knew how to interpret the way we like to entertain and the way we like to live, and marry that with the architecture of our home that just lends itself to an indoor-outdoor experience. Historic preservation is a part of who we are. It's, in a way, for a community, it's a calling card, and very much a part of our American cultural heritage. So to have a place like Palm Beach that wants to bring a focus to that, like the Preservation Foundation, like the Ann Norton Sculpture Garden, we are telling stories, personal stories, and it's almost like being in a conversation with those who came before us. And I think there's something really enlightening about that, and will continue to be with programs like Landmarks Discovered.
Thanks for joining us for Landmarks Discovered. We'll see you next month with a new episode exploring another architect and another landmark property. I hope you'll join us.